Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. Your host remains the same as it was throughout the existing online video YouTube career, so David or Dave. Today is the 24th of June 2021, and just like the day before, today is also again another very hot day. So the scenery has changed. I'm located in the basement of my house, where in the room that I'm currently situated in is basically, you could say, my new office space or business quarters, where I'll be making probably most of my YouTube videos in the future at some point. I specifically pointed out the date because this will probably become a very regular routine throughout my future YouTube videos, because I don't know exactly when the final cut or video as such will be published and made publicly available onto my YouTube channel, because I'm still dealing with some of the technical challenges in maintaining the latter. It's nothing serious, but it's another chore that I have to attend to if I want to make something more out of my channel, which the subscriber count is very much nicely growing every month, and I appreciate and thank all of the existing subscribers for still staying with me and following me via my channel. Anyways, another note that I want to point out is that even though currently in the room that I am, I have a quite nice number of windows and it's a sunny day, the lighting might be changing throughout the video. I'll try to make the picture as such crisp as I can when I'll be showing you different sections of the roof, so don't let that disturb you too much. Okay, enough with the excuses and prolonged introduction. So what is the topic of today's video? We're going to be diagnosing, dissecting, having a look, also analyzing a very common issue with Dell laptops in terms of charging the battery. So when you plug in your battery, your power adapter, nothing happens. The battery is not being charged, whether you notice this in your Windows operating system or if you're much more familiar with what a BIOS is and how to access it, and you notice this in the BIOS as well, and you get a basically unknown adapter error in the BIOS when you try to diagnose the problem. So we're going to be analyzing this and possibly fixing it, because as you can see in front of you, we're going to be playing with lots of equipment. So on the table we have two matching Dell Inspiron 1525 laptops, even with the matching top LCD plastic lid. Color-wise, they're both green, while this one on the right basically charges the battery normally when you plug it in and the power adapter, while this one does not. So this will be the focus of our video. So here I have a 6-cell battery. This one I think is a 9-cell. They're both fine and working, they're not faulty. And here on the extreme sides or both ends, we have two original Dell power adapters or chargers, while this one here is a generic one. So we're going to be diagnosing the issue very thoroughly. Now I'm just going to give you a brief overpass of all the equipment. We're going to be quickly looking at some labels, and then we're going to start the experiment. I'm going to show you how the two laptops behave. Okay, so let's first start with the power adapter on the right. This is just a general 65-watt adapter. In the middle it has that center pin, which is very important. This adapter that I got, or basically purchased, originally the two cables were severed, so I soldered all the wiring together, added a nice thermal tube across, so this has been patched, but it's working, so it's without any issues. And the left side original Dell adapter is sort of the same. It also has been patched up a little bit, but it's again in a pristine working order. Much more up close on the label. So again, it's a 65-watt adapter. And the third one is a generic one. So these are all the information. It's the same as the previous two, 65-watt, with the center pin located in the center. Okay, now let's have a quick look at the two batteries. This is all the information printed on the label. You can see here on the right side, the date is fairly new. This would be the second battery, top view, and the date for this one, or basically the printed information as well, much more up close. Now the two laptops much more up close. As you can see, they're pretty much the same. Okay, this one is missing the M key, but other than that, they're fine. This one has the hard drive inserted, while this one does not. But other than that, they're pretty much identical. There are some differences in terms of CPU, I think. But other than that, they're perfect candidates for this video. Now we're ready to start the experiment. So first I'm going to plug in this battery into this laptop and the power adapter, and then you'll see here on these front indication lights that the battery is being charged. A blue SMD LED will light up, but we're also going to turn on the laptop and enter the BIOS and show you that it has no unknown adapter error and everything is fine. The adapter has been plugged in. Let's check the indication light, whether it is on. Perfect. Let's plug it in. It takes a little while for the LED to light up. There we go. Okay, so now we can turn it on and enter the BIOS. Okay, we press the F2 key. Okay, so it took a little while to get in. Let's go to the section of battery info. As you can see, I'll zoom in on the screen as well. It says charging, 16% charged, AC adapter 65 watts, so it has no problems. There you go. It's working with no problems. Let's see a little bit more. Battery health. It's working fine. Date, time. Yeah, I got the date right in the introduction. Okay. While on the subject of the BIOS and anything associated with it, as you can see on the screen, this is the A17 version, which is supposedly the last. You know, there are always forums where you can find basically modded BIOS ROMs or bin files. If you have any of those, let me know in the comment section. Hey, there is a version of the BIOS that is better. Here is a link to that. It will be very useful for me and everybody else. But I wanted to mention that when I first got the two laptops, they both had the A08 version, so it was quite outdated. And I wasn't able to update them at the beginning. Only when I acquired the batteries, or battery for at least this one in front of you, I was able to update it. And that is a bit of a hassle, because in order to upgrade the BIOS, you need the battery as well as the power adapter. And I think there's also an extra condition that the battery needs to be charged to at least a minimum of 10%, if I'm not mistaken. So quite a restraint. Supposedly there are some workarounds behind that, because I was researching the topic at the time when I didn't have the batteries, but I can't exactly recall at the moment with what program you can do this. I'll add the information in the description part of the video. So I'm just going to exit the BIOS. I'm also, for experiment, I'm going to remove the power adapter so that you can see that it also runs on the battery itself. So let's exit. Yeah, okay, let's remove the plug. As you can see, it's also working fine on the battery. What is the next stage of the experiment? I'm going to remove the battery that was placed in this laptop, and I'm going to try the other one and show you as well that it works fine. So I'm still using the same adapter that was on the right, so the one with the, as you can see, patched up cable. So it's still the same one. So let's plug it in. Let's wait for the indication light to power on. There we go. It's charging this battery as well. Again, go into the BIOS, turn it on. We press the F2 key. Okay, so let's go again to the field of battery info. Charging, 28% charged. AC adapter 65 watts. So again, no problem here. Let's zoom in on the screen. So as you can see, I wasn't lying. Let's go a notch down on the battery health. Again, this battery is performing normally, just as the previous one. I'm going to repeat the procedure. I exit the BIOS, turn off or remove the power adapter plug to show you that it also runs on the battery as well. Okay. Remove the cable or the cord, and it still runs, or it's turned on, running on the battery, so you can hear a little bit the fan running. I see, so we have done this part of the experiment. What's next? Now I'm just going to basically repeat what I've done so far, but I'm just going to change the adapter and use that generic one that I showed you in the introduction. So we're going to switch gear. As you can see, I have the generic adapter ready to go, so it's this one. Let's put in and secure the battery. Now let's see if even this generic adapter will charge the battery when I plug it into its respective power port. Let's give it a couple of moments. There we go. We have the blue SMD LED being lit up. Again, we're going to enter the BIOS, see how things look in there. Let's turn it on. F2 key again. Let's go to battery info. As you can see, I'm going to zoom in the screen. Charging, 37% charged. AC adapter, 65 watts. So it recognizes this generic adapter, you could say, as genuine as well. No problems here. The necessary video proof. So let's go to battery health, see what it says. Again, no problems. The battery is performing normally. Now again, I'm going to disconnect everything, prepare the second battery, and repeat the procedure. But first, let's do this part as well. Let's unplug the power adapter. Again, everything runs normal. Just to show you, we do have the indication light green on this adapter as well, so we do get power. Second battery inserted. Inserting the power cord into the power port. Let's see if we get any light. Yep, it's charging this battery as well with no problem using the generic adapter. Turning it on. Boots up fine. F2 key. In the BIOS, let's go again to battery info. Again, fine. Charging, 30% charged. AC adapter, 65 watts. Again, it recognizes the generic adapter. Let's zoom in. Perfect. Let's go again to battery health. Battery's performing normally. We exit the BIOS. Perfect. Let's remove the power cord. Let's see if it can run off the battery as well again. No problems. Now we are trying the last third adapter, still a genuine one, so the one that was in the introduction on the left side. Let's see if we have the indication light for power. It's glowing nicely green. So this is the one that has a little bit of black masking electrical tape on the plug. Again, first we're trying with the 6-cell battery. Plug in the adapter. Give it a couple of moments. Hopefully something will come on. Or maybe not. What do you know? So we're getting no blue SMD LED being lit up here on this section of the laptop. Let's still try turning it on and see what happens. Okay, so it turns on. Enter the BIOS. Okay, I got this interesting error or text. Now this is a bit of a surprise because I thought this adapter was working as well. So this is really, you could say completely unscripted, new. Because I fix a lot of electronics and I pretty much pride myself in doing the job very well, accurately, but Over time things can still break due to natural, you could say, decay factor. So I can't really recall whether this black masking electrical tape, this was my doing or not. I'll give you already the solution here. What is the problem for this adapter is in the wire you have basically 3 wires going. The plus, where you get the 19 volts, you have the ground, and then you also have a middle wire, a 3rd pin that is actually in the plug. So that wire somewhere must be broken. I'm guessing probably because here I have some of this tape that probably, again, something became broken, so I have to do some soldering work. So you basically need to connect the center pin inside the adapter to the wire that goes here. I think it's the blue wire. So you need to connect that, and this should, basically the symptom should disappear. Okay, anyways, let's go into the BIOS. We press the F2 key, so let's go to battery info. Let's see what it says. Idle, 39% charged, AC adapter, unknown device installed. This error or symptom should appear on the second laptop and not on this one. I'm probably going to skip certain steps of this section of the video, which I was planning on doing the tests for the 3rd adapter. Let's just zoom in on the picture for video proof or picture proof. Okay, so this laptop is now pretty much, I think, completely running on the battery, so it's not naturally charging it. Let's go to battery health. Again, no problems here. Battery is performing normally. Yeah, so that center pin is the problem with this adapter, so again, something I have to fix. Let's just exit the BIOS as we did before. Perfectly remove the plug. Okay, so it's naturally running off the battery, so this is fine. So I'm not going to continue the experiment related to the 3rd adapter as this one has proven to be faulty, or specifically, at least that's what I think the issue is, again, in the plug. So I'm going to have to play a little bit with my soldering iron. I'm not going to go into the experiment by removing the 6-cell battery, adding in the 9-cell, and repeating everything that I've done with the previously 2 confirmed working adapters. So this part of the video will be terminated. But before we continue to the 2nd laptop, which is the main star of this video, another note that I want to point out. Let's think of a possible scenario. You've plugged in your AC power adapter, the green LED lit up, meaning you have power, and let's say that you plugged in your power cord into the power port of your laptop. You would try turning the laptop on, but it wouldn't turn on. And more importantly, that the green LED on your power adapter would go out immediately when you would plug in the cord into the laptop. Now, what could be the problem with that? As you may have noticed throughout the video when I was plugging in the other, could say, low DC voltage side of the AC adapter into the laptop, I was using the term PowerPort. That is because this particular laptop, so the Dell Inspiron 1525, the main board, the motherboard, has 2 detachable PCBs that accompany it. So one is the PowerPort, and the second is the USB 2.0 S-Video expansion PCB part as well. So the PowerPort looks like this. I'll try to adjust this as I can, or the problem is, outside suddenly became pretty much cloudy, so the sun is nowhere in sight. Lighting is not very good. These are the numbers. I'll probably add these in the description part of the video. Very useful if you want to find a replacement. Yeah, so this is the PowerPort. This is where your DC jack goes in. You have the USB 2.0, a couple of ports, and then here you have 2 holes, so basically towers that are attached to the main board and then secured in by 2 Phillips screws. So if you get this type of a symptom that I described, most likely the power port is damaged and needs to be replaced, because this was exactly the symptom with the 2nd laptop that I got it. I would plug in the AC adapter, DC wall socket, and the other side the DC jack would get the male part of the plug inserted, and the green LED on the adapter would immediately go out, and I would have to disconnect everything and even wait maybe a minute or so before reattaching the AC adapter in order to get that green LED to lit up once again. Basically, the PowerPort for the second laptop was broken, I think, like diagonally here, so it was almost ready to come off. I was able to replace it. So this is the symptom that you can also pay attention to. So be very kind to your DC input jack ports on your laptops. So now we will switch our focus to the second laptop and show you the symptom that magically appeared with the third adapter that I was trying to test. So you'll see the symptom appear on the second laptop. So we're going to use primarily these two original adapters, which are fine or have been confirmed through the first part of the video as working. We're going to use these two on the second laptop. Everything is ready, connected, fully prepared for the second experiment. I have removed the hard drive from the laptop because it has an operating system installed, Windows 7 Ultimate to be precise. I don't want that to interfere with the experiment by immediately switching me to the operating system, so this will make the experiment much more easier. Now let's just check whether the AC adapter has power by inspecting that green LED, whether it is lit or not. It is. Perfect. Now let's first connect this battery into the laptop. Perfect. Let's plug in the DC jack into the port. This laptop actually turns on automatically. This is related to another issue that I suspect. And we are greeted with the same error that was present when we used the first laptop with the third AC adapter. So the second Dell that was the original one. Well, for video proof, I'm still going to zoom in on this as well. Okay, so let's press the F2 key and enter the BIOS. Let's go down to battery info. Okay, so as we can see, just as this was the case for the third experiment with the third adapter, we have idle, 39% charged, AC adapter, unknown device installed. But we know this adapter works because we tried it with the first laptop. So now it's running off the energy stored into the battery. Let's see what the battery health has to say. This battery is performing normally, so it's not related to the battery. It's not related to the adapter. Okay, so let's exit the BIOS. Okay, remove the PowerPort. It works. Of course, the screen becomes a little bit more dimmer because of the settings in the BIOS. Now let's turn it off. So the first battery showed you interesting results. Now let's try the second, the 9-cell battery. See how the symptoms change or remain the same. Let's plug in the jack into the laptop. It should. Yep, again it turns on automatically. So even this laptop, the BIOS is updated to the latest or last A17 version. I had a little bit of trouble updating this one. As you can already have noticed, when I plug in the AC, basically the other side of the power adapter, it turns on automatically. I think this issue is related to the BIOS CMOS or RTC battery, so the CR2032. I think the battery has low voltage, but this is yet to be determined. So again, the same error even with the second battery. Much more up close. Enter the BIOS as usual. Let's go down to battery info. Okay, again, idle, 31% charged, AC adapter, unknown device installed. So it's not charging the battery, but it's running off the battery. Let's see again what it says for battery health. Battery is performing normally. Again, even the second battery is okay with this adapter, but the problem remains with the laptop. Okay, so let's exit the BIOS. Exit. Perfect. Let's turn it off. Now the original Dell adapter has been unplugged. It's nicely resting on the table, and now we are using the generic one. So let's add first the 6-cell battery into the laptop. I think even with this configuration, the same thing will happen when I plug in the cord. It turns on automatically, but no charging light indication. The same error pops up. This one has an addition, also the previous one had it, or the previous two, so the RTC mode fix. So this is definitely additional issue that I'm suspecting it has to do with the 3-volt lithium CR2032 battery, that it is on low voltage. Again, let's enter the BIOS. Now let's go to battery info. Same as before, idle 39% charged, AC adapter unknown device installed. But we know that this adapter is working fine when we were using it on the first laptop with the same two batteries. Battery health, battery is performing normally. Again, not an issue related to the battery or the adapter. So let's exit the BIOS. Let's remove the power cord. It works fine. The screen becomes a bit dimmer because of the brightness settings. Fine, turn it off. Now we just need to try out the last battery, so the 9-cell type. But even with this one, there will be no change in the reoccurring symptom. Attaching the DC to the laptop. Again, turns on automatically. Okay, let's again go into the BIOS. Yeah, so this laptop has, besides the charging issue, also the BIOS settings. Every time I turn it on, it resets them to its default values, which I'm suspecting it has to do with the low CR2032 battery, which I'm also planning on inspecting whether this is the case or not. Okay, so this is interesting. Now the error or the text does not involve the RTC. Interesting. Let's just zoom in. Okay, let's go into the BIOS again. Battery info. Idle 31% charge. Again, the same error. AC adapter unknown device installed. Battery health. Battery is performing normally. Now it's time that we dive a bit more deeper, as basically the issue is not hardware related in terms of battery or the AC adapter. Of course, it's always that you perform the process of elimination, even though this does require that you have an extra set of toys to play with. I have, as you can see, lots of adapters. I have even one that is upstairs besides the two batteries, because that only can help you in efficiently finding out what is the problem. So I'm probably going to have to open up the laptop and inspect the motherboard near the DC input power jack, because this is where I suspect the problem lies, at least according to another video that I found on YouTube for a different Dell laptop model, but nevertheless. Okay, so let's exit. Let's remove the power cord. Again, fine, running on the power from the battery. Let's turn it off. So I'm recording this section of the video onwards the next day, 25th of June, 2021 is the date, and the hour is, well, it's almost 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm a bit of a night owl, so don't let that bother you too much. What you see in front of you is the extracted bare motherboard for the Dell Inspiron 1525 laptop. I finally found the time and disassembled the laptop. I really lost a lot of time diagnosing the issue with the third adapter. That was a complete surprise to me because I had everything prepared, how I'm going to make the video. So that issue popping up was completely very much unexpected and uninvited, not to mention irritating. But I'll probably mention that in the conclusion part of the video. Addressing the main issue of this video tutorial, specifically fixing the problem with the AC adapter. So regardless whether we're talking about a generic or a original one, not being properly recognized in the BIOS. Also happy to announce that I was able to fix the issue with the laptop turning instantaneously on when adding power to the motherboard via the PowerPort PCB extension. My suspicions were correct when I indicated that this issue might have stemmed from a low CR2032 3-volt lithium battery. So this is the location of it on the board. So this is the BIOS, CMOS or RTC battery. When I measured the voltage for this, it was not anything close to 3 volts or even anything above 2 volts. It was almost zero. I'm going to show you when I'm going to take it out. We're going to have a quick look or reading on the digital multimeter. When I replaced this, the issue with the laptop turning instantaneously on when adding power was resolved. But yeah, we're going to have a look at the entire board. I'm also going to show you the location of the BIOS chip as well. That is, very useful information if you want to or need to reflash the latter using something like the CH341A BIOS programmer or the EZP 2019 tool as well. So let's remove the battery. So it's a fairly easy operation. You just go a little bit underneath and it pops out. Now let's measure the voltage. I'll be using my trusty digital multimeter. You already met this fellow in previous videos when I was testing various capacitors or synchronous or induction motors. So it's an old pal. So let's set everything in the correct voltage DC measuring range. I've flipped the battery on its head so I have easy access. This would be the minus, this would be the plus. So as you can see, almost pretty much zero volts. So that was giving me the problem. So I'm going to replace it with a new one. A quick up-close shot of the battery, nothing special. This is the replacement one that I'm going to put inside, a Duracell type. Let's measure the voltage before we do so. Again, I flipped it on its head. Let's see. Oh yeah, this is how it's supposed to be. Perfect. I want to add another note here before we move on. Whenever you're replacing the BIOS or CMOS battery and you measure the voltage on it, even if it gives you a good reading, I would suggest that you also apply a very small load to it. Pretty much a normal LED would suffice because, sometimes batteries are very tricky. The ones that go bad, and pretty much all do eventually, you might get a symptom where the voltage would appear very high or almost like factory or stock. But when you would apply a load to it, it would drop immediately to, almost 0 volts. That's why it's important that not only that you measure the battery with the digital multimeter, but you also apply a very small load to it. You could even try connecting a, let's say a CD-ROM motor to it, to its polarities, and see whether the battery would drive the motor. But that's a bit of a strain for the battery. Just a common LED would suffice. Now we can begin with the tour of the motherboard itself. So I'm probably going to start here and move on towards that direction because I'm illuminating the motherboard with a desk lamp, and that is pretty much no good in comparison to your ordinary or very powerful sunlight. So this is the location of the additional 2 USB 2.0 ports and the S-Video. I think that is for the SIM card. So this is a removable PCB. On the left side you have the battery port or connector. So this is your, on the right, SD card reader, RAM slots, and then you have these ports for these specific cards besides the Wi-Fi. Your graphics chip, the main CPU. Okay. Modem pretty much non-existent or not needed in 2021. And this is the PowerPort. This is also removable PCB. I'm trying to hold my hand as still as I can, besides the lighting being very poor. So let's flip the board. You have your top view. Again, I'm starting at left side and going towards the right. Come on, camera. Okay. Almost through. And again, glance of this section of the board. Now, where is the location of the BIOS chip that I promised to show you? This is it. This is the BIOS chip. So it's located right near the keyboard socket. I'll try to use a LED so you can actually see the readout on the chip. So I put a magnifying glass over the lens of the camera, so I think you can make it out. There we go. 25x16 VCIC. So this is the BIOS chip. Incredible. Never managed to achieve this, to get such an interesting close-up. This section of the video is being recorded 4 days later, so on the 29th of June, still year 2021. Currently it's about 11 o'clock in the morning. After fiddling for a couple of days with this issue, so the adapter not being properly detected in the BIOS and consequently the two batteries not being able to be charged up, I finally fixed this problem. And I'm also a bit sort of disappointed at myself that I didn't first consider the problem where I fixed it, to have that first inspected instead of diving into everything else, looking at the schematics for this laptop, which are, by the way, in the description part of the video. So I really went all around instead of looking at the most basic things. What do we need to do, therefore, to fix the issue at hand? The problem all along was located in the DC input jack port, or basically this component on the PowerPort PCB. Essentially, the contacts in the inner section where the center pin coming from the DC side of the adapter, where this would go in, they weren't creating a connection, they weren't hugging the center pin and thus establishing the connection, and the latter, the signal being sent to the motherboard and then getting a return signal that this is a 65 watt adapter and that charging can proceed with the battery if it is present. So this was the problem all along. I mentioned that the second laptop that I originally got it had a sort of a broken power port, and before discarding the circuitry altogether, I decided to desolder or remove all of the components that were located on it. So these are all the parts, and in the back originally I also had the newly installed DC input power jack port. So this is the one that was previously on the board, which has been desoldered. So I had to play a little bit with my soldering iron and the vacuum sucky pump thingy in order to facilitate or basically execute this fix. And I'm really glad that I kept all the parts from the original board, because if I hadn't done this, I wouldn't be able to make the swap or fix the issue. This is basically as such the end of this video journey that we took, or video tutorial or analysis of this particular issue. The only thing that is left is that I reassemble the second laptop, put all the components in the respective places, and that we pretty much repeat the tests that we did with the first laptop using the two adapters. So the one that is original and the other that is generic, and using the two batteries that I introduced in the introductional part of the video, or in the beginning. This we will execute or do, but first let's touch on something else. I did mention that I was able to find the schematics for this laptop. It's really easy, just type into your appropriate search engine or browser Dell Inspiron 1525 schematics and you'll get lots of links. I'm adding a couple in the description as I mentioned. So we're going to be learning a little bit how to navigate through the schematics, how to get around on the motherboard, learning basically how to decipher everything that is mentioned in that document or PDF file, and also I'm going to give you some directions if the issue at hand goes a bit deeper than just changing the DC input jack port on your PowerPort, where to look and what is the most usual or typical problem if this issue is not fixed. The first thing that we're going to have a look at is specifically the so-called PSID, which is basically the center pin signal voltage that is needed in order to activate the charging function on your motherboard for the laptop battery if it is present or inserted. So we're going to try to detect what is the voltage for this particular model and of course brand name laptop, the motherboard. So we're going to be fiddling around with the digital multimeter a little bit. And then we're going to diagnose if the PSID voltage is not present, how to proceed, where to look on the board for possible faults. Let's measure the DC voltage on the output section of the adapter. So we have the ladder set in the correct scale, DC voltage, 20 volts scale, which should be more than enough. So the negative probe lead goes on the outside metal wall of the plug, and the positive probe lead goes on the inner metal wall. And let's see if we have any voltage. Almost 19.4 volts, which is normal and as it should be. Now we're going to try to touch with the positive probe lead the center pin and see if we have any voltage on that as well. So this will be a bit more tricky to pull out. So let's try. So I'm touching the center pin and 0 volts, nothing. Okay, so this is pretty much normal. This is how it's supposed to be. Now we're going to insert the plug into the DC input jack port and we're going to measure the voltage on the center pin contact and see if we have any voltage there. Basically, we're going to be touching, using this as an illustrative purpose, this contact point here. I'm just going to put the negative lead on this HDMI outer case and the positive lead will go into the center contact, and let's see if we get any voltage. 2.7 volts pretty much. So this is the PSID voltage. So this is the situation if your PowerPort and the motherboard is fine. This is how it's supposed to be. Okay. I want to add additional notes to the PowerPort itself because you do have some components located on it as well. I think these two black components, this one over here and this one here, I think these are some sort of Schottky diodes. I'm not really certain, but I think this is the case. And over here you have two monolithic ceramic capacitors. So it's always good that you check these things or components as well. I would suggest on the digital multimeter, if your one supports it, using the continuity mode. Therefore, using this option. And if any of the components sort of get a beep, yeah, something like that, when you touch them, regardless how you connect the probe leads, then that is an indication that one of those components is bad. Another note on the plastic connector, so the male part, the one basically this one goes on the other side, the female socket on the motherboard itself. Starting on this side from the 5th pin forward till the end, all of these pins should have a readout of 19.4 volts. If they don't, then something is broken on the board. Could be the Schottky diodes, the capacitors, or there are some other, you could say, actual more in-depth structural problems with the PCB itself. And in that case, the power port itself should be replaced as well. Now finally onto the motherboard itself, where we can start looking for possible issues or where the problem might originate if you have this issue. If the DC input jack port is fine and all the components on the power port are okay, where to look? I would suggest that you would start looking at this section of the board. Naturally, this is where the power port comes on. Specifically, I would measure the voltages on these 3 transistors. Basically, I think some are actually diodes, but nevertheless, so I'm going to zoom in on this part and we'll have a closer look. Now, this is much more up close. So I would pay attention to the voltage readings on D26, Q21, and Q20. The D24, I think it's irrelevant. These three are most likely to be the problem of your issue if it is not resolved like I fixed mine. I have compiled a list of voltage readings for these three transistors that I mentioned, what the readings would be if the following scenario would occur. So you would connect the power port into the female plastic socket here. You would also plug in the other side of your AC adapter, so the DC plug into the DC input jack connector on the power port, and then you would turn on your digital multimeter, and let's say you would put the negative test probe lead on this surface for the VGA connector or the RJ45 or modem, and then the positive probe lead would go touching the three spots on each of the transistor. These are the voltage readings that you would get if the board, and more specifically the components, would be fine. And of course, we know how a transistor looks like, or what are the points. So we have the drain, the top, the gate, and the source. So these are the readings, how they should be if these three components are fine. Now let's finally have a look at those schematics for this particular laptop, or the motherboard itself, how that looks like in sort of a plain text view, but looking at this from a logical viewpoint. We are located in the PDF document on page 38. I'm going to, of course, zoom in. So this bulky thing, this is your connector. The female side, therefore, from the power port. This is the origin of the PSID signal. Here you have a reference 34, because on the 34th page you have another microcontroller to which the PSID connects to. So that is also another chip that you might need to replace if your transistors and resistors on the board that are nearby are fine. But most likely, usually, it's just a transistor that goes bad. So this is how it goes through various components nearby. Here we have the Q21 component, the Q20, and the PSID basically travels to on the, I think it's the 9th connector on that white bulky thing. But if you look at it, like so, I think it's actually the 5th. Okay, so we're going to look at that on the board as well. This diagram, it's fairly easy to understand if you're at least a bit technically inclined. You have some basics about electronics. It's nothing hard to be afraid of. The PSID signal travels to this WinBond microcontroller. I don't know whether this is programmed or not. So it's located near the BIOS integrated circuit or chip. I don't know exactly on which leg it enters. You can see the 34th page of that PDF schematics file. But still, this is quite a long path coming from here and going into this microcontroller. So there are definitely other components in the way that you might need to check out as well. So hopefully only the transistors or just one is faulty on the other side of the board and not the actual microcontroller. But you never know what will be the situation regarding the nature of your fault. I have put a magnifying glass over the lens of the camera. So on this side of the board, the PSID originates near the XF1 mark, goes through the D26 or R225 resistor or transistor, and then it travels through the empty slot of the D25. The next set of resistors, Q21, Q20, until it enters the 5th pin on the white female socket connector, and then it goes to the power port. This section onwards is being recorded the next day, 30th of June 2021. The clock is almost 3:30 in the afternoon. So all the parts that were removed from the second laptop, most importantly the motherboard, they have been returned to their respective places. Everything has been screwed, reattached, secured. The laptop, the second one as such, is fully reassembled. So now we're going to basically repeat what we've done already so far with the first laptop. So I'm going to insert both batteries into the ladder. Then we're going to try charging them first with the stock or default Dell AC adapter, and then also with the generic one as well. And hopefully this time we'll get the charging blue S&D LED to pop up, indicating that either battery is being properly charged, and this will of course be furthermore investigated by jumping into the BIOS. I pointed out some time back in the video that this laptop originally came with a hard drive, and it also had a operating system installed onto it as well. So we're going to be furthermore going into Windows 7 Ultimate 32-bit, if I'm not mistaken, operating system, and giving you an additional video proof that the batteries, the charging process is ongoing and correctly detected in that operating system as well. Furthermore, as a sort of a conclusional note or gift, I'm going to add some advices, or basically we're going to look at possible upgrades for this laptop. Specifically, what sort of CPU can you put inside, and what is the maximum memory limit in terms of all the other specifications that follow it. I don't need to point out that you can also insert a solid state drive into this machine regardless of capacity by your choice, so that is redundant. And then we're going to add some information about the third adapter. What were my findings when I tried diagnosing the issue? First, I'm going to insert the 6-cell battery into the laptop, and we're going to conduct the tests with the original default or stock Dell AC adapter. We are inserting the battery. Let's check also whether we have the indication light on the AC adapter present. So we have the green light, so everything is fine and operational. Let's insert the other part of the DC adapter into the laptop, and let's see what happens. So we should get the blue S&D LED to light up. There we go. Perfect. Let's turn it on. Pressing the power button. Pressing the F2 key. And we're in the BIOS. Let's go to device info first. I know I haven't done this before with the original laptop, but as you can see right under a flash cache module, we have the AC adapter type being correctly recognized. So let's just zoom in on the screen briefly. That's it. So let's go to battery info. Perfect. Everything is fine. AC adapter is detected correctly. It's charging the battery. So let's go to also battery health. Let's exit the BIOS, of course, naturally. So as you can see, also the issue with the laptop automatically turning on was resolved. As I pointed out, I had to replace the CR2032 battery. So we're also going to check how this charging process is also ongoing in Windows. I'm just waiting for the operating system to stabilize, because this machine is running only on, I think, 2 gigabytes of RAM. I am considering that Windows 7, it is recommended that you have at least 4. This will take some time. I'm just going to hover with the mouse on this icon. There, it says it's charging. Sadly, Windows, this version is a Slovene version, so you cannot actually make it out, but you know, it says it is charging, so this is working fine. Before we proceed with the second test with the larger battery, I'm just going to conduct the test of removing the power adapter and see whether it can run on the internal battery. Removing the adapter. Okay, so the screen briefly becomes a bit dimmer, then the brightness returns to the same level. I've changed a little bit the settings, but as you can see, it runs fine as I have removed the DC plug. Now let's repeat the test by inserting the 9-cell battery. At least I think this is a 9-cell. Could be a 12-cell, but I doubt it. Inserting the battery, insert it. Indication light is still on the AC adapter. Inserting the DC plug into the laptop. Let's see if anything happens. Perfect. Again, battery being charged. Let's fire up the machine. Turning it on. Pressing the F2 key. We're in the BIOS. Let's go again to device info. Adapter recognized correctly. Let's just zoom in briefly. The charger is being correctly recognized as a 65 watt type. Let's go to battery info. Nice, it's charging it 31 or basically 34%. It is already charged. Again, below the AC adapter is recognized as it should be. Let's say what battery health has to say. Again, the battery is in normal condition. Let's exit the BIOS and go again into Windows and check how things are going there. The operating system needs some additional stabilizing, but I'm still just going to go and give you the video proof. Let's hover with the mouse. Yep, it says 36% available and charging. It's in Slovene, so you really cannot make it out, but you know, it says so. You have to just simply trust me or believe me. Now I'm just repeating the test that we did with the first 6-cell battery, removing the plug. So the system or laptop works fine on this internal or removable battery as well, besides charging it, which was the original issue. Now we need to try the generic adapter and see what sort of results we get with that adapter. The original Dell adapter has been disconnected and is, well, nicely waiting on the table. As you can see, the generic one has been already plugged in. It has a nice solid green light so that power is flowing. So as you can see, the generic one. Adding the 6-cell battery into the laptop. Reattaching the other end of the DC or basically AC adapter into the unit. Let's see if we get an indication light of charging. Bravo. Let's turn it on. So let's go into the BIOS as usual. And we are inside. Let's go again to device info. Adapter is being correctly recognized as a 65 watt type. So the close-up video proof. Let's go again to battery info. 72% charged and it's still charging it. AC adapter recognized as it should be. Battery health, no issues here. Again, let's go to Windows. Let's zoom in on the lower part of the screen and let's see what it says over here. 70% available, attached, charging. So in Windows is also working fine, or basically the problem is non-existent. Again, repeating the test, removing the plug. The laptop again works fine on the internal battery, but of course this wasn't the issue, but I like to add this test to the overall analysis that we are conducting because it can be useful. Now we just need to conduct the final test, and that is again reinserting the 9-cell battery into the laptop and doing all the tests that we have done already so far with the 6-cell type. Inserting the battery, reattaching the other side of the AC adapter into the unit. Let's see whether we get charging status going. We do. Let's turn on. Striking the F2 key to enter the BIOS as usual. Again, we're going to device info. Perfect or bravo. AC adapter recognized again as it should be a 65 watt type. Now let's go to the next category, battery info. Charging status ongoing, 37% already charged. The adapter is recognized correctly. Health, battery, no issues here as well. Let's exit the BIOS and again go to Windows. I'm going to jump to the lower side of the screen to give you the additional proof that the battery is being charged. Let's see. Yeah, 38% available, attached, charging. If I was to directly translate the Slovene text. So this is working. Let's only do the final test, disconnecting the AC adapter and see whether the computer or laptop runs on the internal battery's power. Removed the plug and everything is normal as it should be. Let's do just one final check whether the battery is okay. It says about 39% remaining, so this percentage will eventually go down depending on how much I stress the laptop, but this pretty much finally concludes all the tests, all the diagnostics or analyzing that we have done throughout this video. Before we proceed to the tips and tricks on upgrading the CPU and everything else, I want to add another piece of crucial or important information, and that is how to indicate when you need to replace the laptop battery or how much it has been used up before it needs to be discarded. There are interesting software or programs that are available to diagnose or detect this, but one as a freeware definitely stands out in this department. And that is CPUID's HWMonitor program. So let's fire it up. So this is really a good piece of software that can help you with this. Besides monitoring the CPU temperature from the hard drive and all the other information, it also tells you some statistics for your laptop battery. So here we can see that this particular 9-cell battery, the design capacity was almost 87 watt-hours, I think. Yeah, if I move the milli prefix. So the full charge capacity is a bit lower because, as you can see here, you have the wear level is 35%. So meaning that you have lost 35% of the original capacity for this battery. So this is quite a useful piece of information. It can be a great indication to guide you when you need to replace or discard the laptop battery. Even though the latter are, they have certain tricks that you can use to reset them, but for that you need specialized hardware and most importantly software. But that is a topic that I'll probably make a video on at some point in the distant future, so it's not to be discussed within this video. Now on the topic of upgrading your microprocessor or CPU, first you need to know what sort of a machine you have inserted onto your motherboard. And again, here we turn to the same company that we did when we want to find out what is the state of our laptop battery, so CPUID, and we install this freeware program, CPU-Z program. This is an excellent piece of software that can again give you this information, what sort of CPU do you have, and all the other parameters that you need to know about. It returns the information that we have a Intel Mobile Core 2 Duo T5500 CPU installed, socket, and all the other information. So let's go to caches. This is some additional information about the CPU. This is the details about the main board. We have the newest and pretty much I think the last BIOS. Memory, we have only, like I speculated, only 2 gigabytes of DDR2 RAM, PC2-5300 type, I think, but this is also displayed over here. So very good software that can help you in first just determining what sort of gear you have installed or what sort of components are located underneath all the plastic case of your laptop. When I want to find out what sort of CPU I can upgrade or replace in a laptop, I usually turn to this website, the CPU World. I just type in Google the default CPU that is installed in a laptop, then I add the CPU World text to it, and it first gives me the specifications listed for the CPU that is installed in my motherboard for the laptop that I'm searching on upgrading. And then if I want to upgrade it, then I usually go here and I would choose higher frequency option and same bus speed, but most importantly same socket. Then I just click on find, and it should display what sort of options are available to me. So let's scroll down and let's see what is the printout. We can insert into this laptop the following CPUs. But if you were paying attention to when I showed you the information coming from the CPU Z program, it lists or says that we have a socket P installed or that is present on the motherboard, while here it gives us a list of CPUs available for the socket M. Even though, of course, the Intel T5500, it says that it is M socket type of CPU. So this is a bit something that I need to research. So then I usually also do another type of comparison by just going on the internet and finding out what other people recommend when you want to upgrade this laptop or any other one. In this topic, all of the links, of course, will be available in the description part of the video. Somebody already wrote about what are the upgrade options for this particular laptop, and the advice was given that you can put in a Intel T9500 CPU. Somebody else also suggested the T9300 type of CPU. I think this is a 800 megahertz bus speed type. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, I was right. It is a 800 megahertz bus speed type of CPU. So this is also the type of CPUs that you can insert into this laptop, but I think it will downclock it to work at 667 megahertz. Let's see, what's the power consumption? Yeah, it is the same for the T5500. So when you're upgrading a CPU, you should pay attention to that you have the same wattage or power consumption, that it's the same socket, and in general bus speed. But here you can go higher, but as it will only downclock it to work at a lower speed. But these parameters are definitely important. You could perhaps go even 5 watts higher than it is the default type of CPU that you have inserted in your laptop, but never go anything, I would say, beyond 10 watts and the likes, because that is definitely a chance that you will burn the CPU or, most importantly, the motherboard. Here you have a list of also possible additional candidates that can be used to replace the existing CPU in your laptop. But of course, it all depends on the pricing for them on, let's say, eBay. This is at least the usual internet marketplace where I look for possible CPU upgrades or replacements. This topic too is, again, a very good read. It discusses basically that you can use different type of CPUs in regards to the pin difference, 478 versus 479. You can use different type of CPUs to upgrade this laptop. That basically connects to the list that I showed you previously. And somebody here lists out quite a number of these CPUs that were shown in the previous list. Yeah, here they are. So you have lots of options that you can upgrade the CPU. But of course, it depends on your budget as always. In regards to the memory upgrade, well, as you can see, here is a glimpse of a topic that 6 gigabytes of DDR2 might work, but I would simply suggest going with 4 gigabytes of 676 megahertz type of RAM, so PC2-5300, even though you could even put in 800 megahertz type, so the 6400 type, but it would probably just downclock it to work at a lower frequency. But again, it depends on what is the price listing. If the 800 megahertz 2x2 gigabyte kit is cheaper than the 667 type, then naturally go with the 800 megahertz. We have pretty much reached the end of this video tutorial on how to diagnose and most importantly how to fix the issue with the AC adapter not being correctly recognized in the BIOS, as well as this issue continuing in your appropriate operating system, Windows and the likes. So all that there is left to do is, as I mentioned a couple of times throughout the video, is to give you some information on what is the status with the third adapter. So the one on the far left side of your screen. What is the situation with this before we wrap up the video and add some additional conclusional notes. So let's switch our attention to the third adapter. The verdict is the following. I need to replace the entire cable coming from the output side of the AC adapter. So this is the side from where the DC voltage comes and goes through this plug into your laptop. So the entire cable needs to be replaced. So what I did was I basically stripped the entire plug. I went with an X-Acto blade down the middle, removed the outer rubber case, clipped everything, then I checked all the wires, and using the continuity test and of course taking apart the adapter itself, I was able to determine that there is no connection with the middle pin starting on this side of the cable and the other side that goes onto the PCB or into the circuitry of the adapter itself. There is no connection. The minus terminal is working fine, the plus as well, but no connection on the middle pin. So this adapter is still good for charging, any Dell laptop that has this type of a plug on the end, the female side to which this male socket or plug goes into. It's fine for powering it up and running it on AC, but it cannot charge the battery if you have the battery for that particular laptop. So that is the story with this one. I did reassemble the plug after diagnosing everything, just adding 2-component glue or epoxy in order to put the outer rubber case again back together as much as possible. So it is still functional, but this side of the wire has become much shorter if we compare it with the original adapter. The difference in length is quite substantial, but because here you have pretty much a weak point, so I won't be able to twist the cable much, because then I will cut it or basically make a short again, probably on this side. So I have to be pretty careful when dealing with this adapter. This is therefore really truly finally the end of this video tutorial discussion or analysis how to get rid of the issue with your Dell laptop not charging your battery, or first and foremost the adapter itself not being properly recognized in the BIOS. In order to fix the issue, I couldn't have done it without having an additional reference laptop to begin with. So overall I had 2 identical Dell Inspiron 1525 laptops to fill around with, one using as a reference point. And I also had 2 batteries. One was a 6-cell, so that is the one on the right, and then I had a 9-cell that is located on the left side of your screen next to the laptop that we were fixing. And I also used 2 adapters, even though my original intent was on using 3. So I ended up with only fiddling around with 2, one being a stock sort of a original Dell AC charger, and the other one being a generic one. But I think it's also useful. The third one as such didn't quite make it into the test or analysis, and I also explained what was wrong with it and how to fix it also, even though not actually going with the procedure of changing the cable. Even though the only issue with the second laptop not recognizing the AC charger and charging the 2 batteries at hand was only located in the faulty DC input jack port, and I dived into analyzing the schematics, the soldering transistors and the diodes. I think it's still very useful that I've added this information in the video, how you can navigate through schematics, how to read them, because if your issue goes a bit deeper than just changing the DC input jack port, maybe you'll be able to fix your problem instead of discarding the motherboard or just scrapping the laptop itself. I hope that you have enjoyed the video as much as I have put my energy into creating it, giving you a very thorough, detailed guide, or basically the process of elimination, how you can execute it and find a way to fix your issue. So if you have any additional questions, suggestions, constructive criticism, leave that all below in the comments section, which is open, and I always invite you to a civil discussion. If you haven't liked the video, well, please do so. If you have decided to subscribe, thank you. If you're an existing subscriber, well, again, thank you for staying on the channel. I don't upload as much as I would like, but I still try to, when I upload something, that it is something new, unseen, and that it is well covered and detailed. What's left to say is we'll see you in another tech-based video, hopefully very soon. Today has been the 30th of June 2021. This is David or Dave signing off. Bye-bye.